76, Jake Heaps. Jake, fired up having been. It's a cool setting. We're at the Elite 11 finals.
Yeah.
You've been on the regional tour. You're the lead voice of Elite 11 this year. You've been a part of Elite 11 forever.
I think of 2009 when you won the MVP in my first year.
When you think of the context of your quarterback journey, there's a lot to it. If you were to boil it down, what do you think you'd describe it with?
Oh, man. I think the easiest way for me to boil it all down is just the love and passion for the game. I think that is the only reason why this has been able to come full circle, is my love and passion as a young kid, pursuing and chasing the dream, right? And then going through the craziness of my college career. I think it would break a lot of people. I think it would make people bitter towards the game. But my love and passion for the game continue to keep me in it, continue to keep me chasing that dream of playing in the NFL. And then I go and do that and pursue that, accomplish that goal, and then get cut and get to that point where it comes to that finality of, all right, it's over, right? You're not playing anymore. There's nowhere else to go. And then transitioning that into coaching and diving back into the next generation and giving back and wanting to be a part of that from all levels, from the NFL level, working with Russell Wilson, to the local youth kid that is chasing that same dream that I did back in the day, right? And then obviously tying it back full circle to now being a part of the Elite 11, been doing that for years, and now being the head coach of the Elite 11. I smile at it because this game has given me so much, and it offers so much other than just the ball that you have in your hands between the white lines, and it's up to you to take advantage of it.
I just keep imagining you as like shaved head, 16-year-old,
not
in
much
Orange
has
County.
changed, But I remember that. You always you have the same smile and spirit that you have now. It was a long time ago, though.
Mm.
What do you recall from back in the day that now when you look at this generation of quarterbacks and you say similarities, differences? I know aesthetically it's totally different.
Yeah.
But similarities at the soul of the position, I wonder if you see any, or is it totally changed?
I think that there's some similarities in the fact that adversity is going to hit you. That is undefeated. It's never going to change, right? There's no way around it. There's no parent that can, circumnavigate their kid all the way through the process to the NFL and then never experience any adversity. Adversity is going to hit you. And so it's just a matter of when and how big and how you're going to handle that adversity. I think that remains the same across time. Now, aesthetically, you say it changed. Absolutely. I also think that social media has taken such a life of its own, and maybe it's part of that aesthetic that you talk about, but it's such a huge factor in today's day and age in terms of the gratification process, in terms of how they look within and judge themselves or validate themselves on what they're doing, how they do it, because everybody has a microphone now. When I was coming through, there was only a certain number of pieces, a certain number of talking heads that gave their opinion, and you knew their name. Now, Joe Schmo down the street can start his own website and get his own following and have a scouting report on you, act like they know who you are, what you're about, and try to change the narrative about who you are. And I think for these guys that are handling this position now, it is the hardest time for quarterbacks out of any period to come up and play this position. And I look at that as an exciting aspect as a coach, because now it's up to us to help bulletproof these guys and help prepare them as to how they're going to handle all of these different things that are going to come across their way. But ultimately, I think it comes down to who you are. Are you comfortable with who you are? And when adversity hits, are you prepared for that?
Bulletproof yourself. I think that's an interesting statement. You went best quarterback in America, started as a freshman at BYU, and then by the time your college career ended, you were at
3 different colleges. This was pre-transfer
Before it was
portal.
popular.
Yeah, before everybody was just dipping.
I never felt like you ran from adversity. I felt like you dealt with it and then had to pivot based on circumstance. What do you wish that you knew? Like if you said you could bulletproof, or you want to help guys be bulletproof now, which is kind of impossible. You're going to catch stray here and there.
Mm-hmm.
How do you wish you were?
I really, there's two things. Number one, first and foremost, that college is a business. This is a business. And now more than ever, it's almost like the NFL. And when we were playing, I mean, people were trying to cut guys and replace them with scholarship guys. And, you and I have talked about this before. And Coach Carroll, when he went to SC and brought this NFL mentality and recruited every single 5-star player that he possibly could, and then he would sit them all down and tell them, guess what? I told you all the same exact thing. We are competing together to strive for greatness. And if you can beat this guy out, it doesn't matter how many years he's been a starter or how many years he's been here. It's about who can help us be the best team that we can possibly be, right? And most coaches aren't real with kids. They lie to them. They just try to get through the moment so that they can nab this kid for the rankings. And then once they get them, it's a completely different story, right? So for me, as someone that went to a really, really special high school at Skyline High School in Washington and I was fortunate to play under Steve Jervis and Matt Taylor and guys that really cared about the development of the athlete. And as a high school coach, you have to, right? And also you have the luxury of that. Hey, we might not be good this year, but man, next year these guys are going to be developed. They're going to be bigger, right? That whole thing. In college, you don't have that. And now with the transfer portal and everything else, it's okay, let me go get that from some other college program now. It's even more so. And so I think I wish I would have gone into that process with being less naive to that fact and understanding that I've got to perform now.
Interesting. How do you think you would advise balancing being naive, as you said, it being a business?
Yep.
But still playing with joy.
Oh, yeah.
Playing a game. Like, what do you, because you hear the phrase, it's a business. I think the next sentence is like, it's not a game.
Right.
But it is a game, and you've been a pro. You can still have fun when you make money.
No question. And I didn't know how to do that until I got to the NFL. Until I actually got to be around Coach Carroll. And it was, man, it is fun to compete with other great players. It is fun to go to work every day knowing that everybody has the same mindset, the same goal, and we're all trying to accomplish the same thing. Now, I'm competing with the guy next to me for money and a starting job and all of those things, but we can enjoy the heck out of the process on a daily basis. And I wish that I would have understood that, embraced that a little bit more. And the other aspect of it is it is a game. So how do you tap into that? And you have to rely on the childlike joy that you had playing the game, the passion and drive that I talked about earlier, to be your compass through the whole process and not let your emotions dictate how you act on a daily basis, right? What's your goals? What are you trying to accomplish? What's your routine that you've set for yourself? Win, lose, no matter what, you're going to stick to those principles and you're going to stick to, kind of what you set up for yourself on a daily basis. And that is going to allow you to be the best version of yourself.
As you know, we talked to the parents
at Elite 11. It's really a blast. And I have a ton of empathy for that because you're trying to guide your son in the quarterback world in a landscape. There isn't really a roadmap, at least not one that's a blueprint yet, for the most part. For you, I wonder when you reflect upon what you went through, how were your folks, like as you navigated multiple schools, and then now being on the tour, being in Elite 11 for so long in this era today, what would you say to parents that are, hey, like, I know I need to help navigate, but I don't really know how to drive this car right now.
Yeah. I think that it is so crazy because they're really on the frontier of this. There's no handbook. There wasn't a handbook back then. And I think back to what my parents did is, one, they did everything they could to feed that passion that I had. And they really let me steer the ship in regards to, do you love this? I remember them asking me all the time to the point where I would get really annoyed with them and mad, like, yes, I love it. Okay, stop asking me. But they kept wanting to ask me because of everything they knew it would take for me to get where I wanted to go. The investment that I would have to take, right? We didn't have a quarterback trainer available to us at the time in Seattle, Washington. We had to drive 3 hours to Portland, Oregon to go train with somebody, and we did that every weekend. That's a huge sacrifice and investment. So do you love it? Does your son love it, first and foremost? And the second aspect of it is I can understand being protective, and especially now in this environment where there's money involved and all these things now. I can't even imagine being in their shoes. But the one thing that I would say along the process is make sure that football, that NIL deals, that everything else that's coming along at these kids and at these families is not the number one conversation all day, every day. That you have a relationship with your son outside of these things so that they know that they are loved with or without any of these things. And that may be obvious to them. That might go without saying, but to your son, it's about what you show them. It's about what you do on a daily basis. And I think back sometimes with my family, they loved me to death. They tried to do everything possible to put me in the best position. But at some point, everything starts steering towards football and the football career and what you're doing and how you're going about it, that you kind of forget to be a family, right? And you don't really have anything else to fall back on in terms of the relationship, in terms of how you interact with each other on a daily basis. And so when adversity hits or tough times come and your son is searching for answers, if football is the only relationship that you have, then I think it's going to crumble at some point, to be honest with you. You need to have something so much more deeper where they can come to you and know that they can be themselves, that they can go through those struggles, and that they can escape, go whatever it is that you guys do as a family, go do that. And I think that's really important for them to understand and realize sometimes, that take a beat for a second from the football stuff.
Yeah, no, it's hard because it's just the daily conversation. I think if we looked at like
a Wikipedia page of you, right? We looked at your bio.
If we stopped at your playing career, I would say this as someone who's a quote unquote analyst in football. I'd say, yeah, he's probably going to, take some time away from the game.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what his relationship is like with the game. I would have said it's probably soiled a little bit of toxicity around the game.
No question.
But you have broadcast, you have coach, you work with Russ Wilson, you're now running Elite 11. Like, why? How did you navigate that? Like, is that true? Like, were you able to be fluid in that toxicity, or was it non-existent? And just saying it.
No, there was toxicity, and that's what made my career the journey that it was. And it's not always going to be perfect, right? And it's either through things that you do yourself that you wish you could have done better on the field, off the field. There's also things that are outside of your control, coaches and how they handle adversity. The boosters around you. There's all these different things, right? But that fueled my drive to help others and help the next generation of quarterbacks navigate that process. Because
how quickly did it turn to fuel?
Very quickly. I would say it took a couple years, because at first I was reeling, right? Here I was, number one quarterback in the country, was a freshman All-American, ready to, set my sails and go into the NFL and be a first-round pick. All those things crumble, and now I'm reeling and I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, how do I get myself back on track? Why did this happen? This wasn't part of my story. This wasn't part of my plan. Why is this going on? And so there's this question, and then your confidence gets shaken. Wait, a coach didn't like me for me, or he didn't like some aspect about me? Why? Right? And so you're dealing with that. And then eventually, once you get through that, it really took me my second year when I was at the University of Kansas, where I really found myself again in regards to, what made me great, what made me who I was that I just got lost in the work. I got lost in the love of getting better and striving to get better and enjoying it with my teammates and having that common goal together, right? And including them in my journey. It wasn't me alone, this is a team game, the greatest team game of all time. So pouring into my teammates and letting them know how much I care about them and how much I care about their success. And you start getting back to the joy of playing the game again, right? Because you have those relationships. And so that's really where it all started to come together again for me. And there were disappointments along the way still, but I really had found myself. And then by the time college had ended, I was going for it in the NFL. It was full bore, man. Like I was going for it no matter what. Had the opportunity with the Jets my rookie year and then with the Seahawks. And I got to tell you, I mean, the best versions of myself was in high school and in the NFL, funny enough. And in the NFL, it was, and with Coach Carroll, it was just so easy to just go in and just be at your best every day. Just know that that's all you got to do.
Yeah, I used to always say when I first started at SC with Pete, I would call my teammates from Pitt and I'd be like, guys,
I wish you could, I wish, because I even felt like God, if I could have more eligibility, I'd be an even better version of myself. Like I'd play freer, have more fun and all those things.
Absolutely.
Do you think for you now, when you look at the game, you look at it through a healthy lens? And I'm curious what you would say to these quarterbacks, because as Chris Peterson shared with us last year, and the quarterbacks in 2011 was the only guarantee is it's not going to go how you envision it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is there a thought? Is it like
so true?
Compete to find the joy, compete to get lost in the work? Like, what is it? Because it is going to become a world that has an exit door you can take.
Yep, anytime.
Or one that will hit you with adversity, and you're going to have to deal with it.
And it's probably going to be in your DMs moment by moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great question, Yogi. I think it's different for each guy, but I think overall you have to get lost in the work. And there was a sign that I used to look at when I trained. I hadn't played much after Miami. This is getting ready for my pro day for 3 months straight, six days out of the week, right? I'm grinding as hard as I can, and the sign said above the door, it says you can't cheat the grind. It knows how much you've put in. And that to me was everything, right? Are you putting in the work? Are you getting yourself as prepared as humanly possible, both physically, mentally, spiritually? And if you do those things, there's nothing to fear. There's nothing to worry about, Yogi, because one, you're going to be successful on the field. Number two, you're going to be successful in life. And number three, no matter what is being said about you, no matter what is going on around you, you know who you are, and you know the people that love you and who you're actually getting the right advice from. And you're not going to go wrong because you're going to be at peace. And that's what I want for these kids, is I want them to be at peace with who they are. I want them to be at peace with their process. And if they can be at peace, it doesn't matter if they transfer when they get to the next level. It doesn't matter if they're the starter or the backup, that they will have the tools to be successful, whatever they decide to do. And I think as you look at this process now, how many quarterbacks have we seen from this Elite 11 process end up having to transfer?
More than 50%.
And coming out on the other side of it, right?
No doubt. Bo Nix,
right?
Jaden Daniels,
Caleb Williams, Bo Nix. I mean, it's impressive. It's impressive because it's hard. I know to go in a new environment, to have to relearn everything again, and to still have that confidence to say, you know what, it didn't work out in this other place, but it's going to work out here and now, and I'm going to own it. And I think those guys had a unique gift and a unique trait of being able to do those three things that I just described.
Yeah, I have this flash of all the players who've transferred at least once.
Mm-hmm.
And all the ones that found success have said the same thing in our conversations, which is a version of, I just threw myself into getting to know my teammates.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was solo in the office studying film. Like, of course that was a part of it, but their first sentence is like, I was competing to get to know guys. I didn't say a lot. I just did the work. I just competed to get to know guys. Weight room workouts. So I ask you this as we finish up here.
Yeah.
The theme at Elite 11 in 2024 is chase what matters. So we're trying to educate these players to find with clarity what matters most state it with confidence, not be BS about it, and then have a disciplined, tactile strategy how to go attack it.
Right.
So for you, as somebody who's now the face and the voice of Elite 11, as well as someone who's been in this profession and has played at the highest of levels and had a turbulent collegiate career, to say the least, what matters most to you when you look at the position of the sport?
What matters the most is that this is a team game. That's it. It's as simple as that. It's not about you. It's not about your journey and your process and what you've done up to that point. This is a whole new opportunity to learn your teammates again. It's a whole new opportunity to reinvest into the guys around you and to create those bonds that you already have experience doing. From the time you were young and now getting into high school, now you get to redo that all over again at the college level. Now, when I went to the Seahawks with our quarterback coach, Carl Smith, everybody called him Tater. He's the greatest, right? He would play a game with us called Know Your Seahawks. And he would quiz us on, I mean, it was at the time, so you have a 90-man roster and then you get down to a 56-man roster, right? And so he would do this in the spring with us, right? And it would be the 90th guy on the roster. What's his number? What school he's from? Tell me one interesting fact about him, right? And Tater would do this himself. And so he would know all these facts about everybody else on the team. And so he really would make sure that you're doing your job by knowing your teammates. And I found out that as I started doing that, it wasn't just to pass the test in my QB meeting room with Tater, but I started to become deeply connected to my teammates and to my team. And it became more fun to show up in the building every day. And man, I know everybody and everybody's saying hi to me and what that made me feel. And the confidence that I ended up getting by knowing my teammates and taking an interest in them. And, hey, do you have a place to eat tonight? Or, where do we want to go? Okay, you like playing basketball. Can we go play a pickup game at some point? Right? Doing things with my teammates and taking interest in them ended up making me a better teammate, which made me a better quarterback. And I think for these guys, they're so wrapped up in their journey. The spotlight is constantly on them. It's all about them, right? That's their whole world. That they lose sight of the ability to connect with everybody else around them. And I think that that's why we have such a high miss rate with with all these top quarterbacks every single year. Some guys get it.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I believe this to my core for every college coach listening. I think recruits are asking the appropriate questions in this time in the sport, which is, can you get me to the next level? Mm-hmm. What's my NIL deal? What's the coaching going to be like? And what I believe with all of me, Jake, is that coaches should be front-loading when kids get to campus. Hey, right down the hall, we've got 8 rooms. The doors are wide open. Those are 8 licensed mental health experts.
Yep.
High-performance psychologists, all the way down the line. And I just think front-loading that with these guys, because you're right, varsity's going to hit.
Yep.
In a version of it. We don't know what it's going to look like. It might be one that you dealt with, I dealt with, somebody dealt with, who knows. But it's going to hit. And I think that everybody in this sport knows that is something you can't run from. But people do.
Yeah.
And so I would love our sport to make that turn where it's truly destigmatized, so much so that we don't have to say the word destigmatized, like opening that door. And I wonder for you, if that was the case at any of your stops, like, would it have been different in your college experience, maybe mirror high school and the NFL?
Oh, no question it would have. And I think you hit the nail on the head. There's twofold to that of when they first arrive. And for all the college coaches that are listening to this, please listen to this, is I do agree with the mental performance aspect of it. Weaponizing and giving your kids the opportunity to be bulletproof to adversity that either you present them or that the outside presents them. Because this is the first time that they are really experiencing the full fandom, right? Fandom is short for fanatic, right? So these are a bunch of fanatics that love their team, but also don't treat their players very well, right? This is a performance-based business. What do you do for me? And so those kids are really dealing with that for the first time, okay? So I agree with that. The second thing is be honest. Be honest. And give your kids the tools to be successful. Give them a roadmap and constantly give feedback. And I'm sure that it's more difficult now that you have the ability to go into the transfer portal any second. But I promise you, watch. As if you are honest with them and you show them a path and are consistent with your message, they will respond to that more than lying to them, because that's what kids struggle with. They struggle with people lying to them, and they struggle with trust in regards to, is this coach really have my best interest at heart? And for some, they don't care. You're just another guy. But if you show that you actually care for these kids and give them that feedback and show them, hey, you're a freshman. If you do X, Y, and Z, you're going to be on your way. But don't just plop them down and expect them to do right? You got to give these kids grace, or you got to show them the roadmap, or else you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, I think it's a fun point and an interesting one where, due to the call it professionalization of the sport, transactional element within college football now, I think that coaches are getting more to the truth than ever before, because it's like, hey, Jake, this is what you need to do, play, and if you don't, probably just not gonna. And what gets lost maybe is the connection. So it's this real unique dance among this sport of like 20 new faces come in that are not freshmen.
Yeah.
You got to love them up, but you also got to tell them the truth, because it's a really interesting time at this age.
I'm not saying
group,
it's
man.
easy.
No doubt.
Yeah.
It's a really good point by you, and we could talk about it forever, man.
Yeah.
And we will. We'll do it again. Thank you again for the time.